It was a late summer evening on the sprawling McAllister Ranch, where golden fields stretched endlessly under the fading sunset, and the scent of hay and warm earth lingered in the cooling air. A land that belonged to one of the richest cowboys in Texas, a man named Colt McAllister, whose reputation rode ahead of him like the shadow of a stallion at dawn. A man respected for his wealth, feared for his authority, admired for his rugged charm, yet haunted by a loneliness that even the luxury of his ranch house, his purebred horses, and the endless admiration of women from town could never ease, for his heart carried a hollowness only a genuine soul could fill, and though he never confessed it aloud, he had grown weary of flattery and pretense, craving honesty like a starving man craves bread, and it was perhaps for this reason that he had recently employed a maid from the small neighboring town of Willow Creek, a girl with timid eyes, soft brown hair always pinned back under a simple scarf, and a silence that spoke louder than most women's chatter. Her name was Clara, and though she never dared to look him in the eyes for more than a fleeting second, Colt found himself studying her when she thought no one noticed. The way she moved quietly through the rooms, dusting the shelves with care, setting the table with precise gentleness, tending to the fire as if it were her secret confidant, and though she never asked for more than her wages and a roof over her head, Colt began to wonder what secrets lay hidden behind those shy glances and quiet smiles, and so, driven by a strange mix of curiosity and longing, he devised a test, a foolish game, he told himself, yet one that stirred his heart more than he cared to admit. And that test was simple. He would pretend to sleep in his study, chair by the fire, and see what the shy maid did when she thought her wealthy employer was lost in slumber, for only in such a moment might her true heart reveal itself. Colt McAllister had not been prepared for what he saw the night he pretended to sleep, and though he had imagined that perhaps Clara might quietly cover him with a blanket or tend the fire, the reality of her actions had struck him to the core, for when she believed him lost to slumber, she had approached him with steps soft as whispers, her trembling fingers brushing a stray lock of hair from his forehead, with a tenderness no woman had ever given him before. Then she had leaned close, so close that he felt the warmth of her breath upon his cheek, and with a courage that seemed to surprise even herself, she had whispered words that shattered his heart wide open. "You'll never know, but I would give my life to see you truly happy." And then, as though the confession were too much to bear, she had pulled back quickly, pressing a kiss not upon his lips but against the worn leather armrest of his chair, as if it stood between her secret love and the man himself. And Colt, though he had kept his eyes closed in that moment, felt something stir inside him that no fortune, no land, no admiration from others had ever given him, a realization that the shy maid in his house carried a heart of gold, a heart that burned quietly for him, unasked and unrewarded, and the thought both humbled and shook him. For here was a woman who saw beyond his riches, beyond his reputation, beyond the armor he wore each day, and loved the man beneath, the flawed and weary cowboy who longed simply to be known. And when the morning came, Colt could not look at Clara without remembering the sound of her trembling whisper, yet he held his tongue. For though he was a man used to getting what he wanted, this was different. This was delicate as a butterfly's wing, fragile as new snow, and he feared that one wrong move might crush it forever. So instead he watched, and each day he noticed more. The way Clara's eyes lingered on him when she thought he wasn't looking. The way her smile trembled when he praised her work. The way her hands shook just slightly when she set his plate at supper. And slowly the ranch that had always felt vast and empty began to feel alive, filled with a quiet music that only he and she could hear. Until one stormy evening, fate forced his hand, for thunder cracked across the sky and rain lashed the ranch house. And Clara, soaked to the bone from rushing out to bring in the wash, stumbled into the parlor where Colt sat by the fire, her dress clinging to her frame, her hair falling loose in wet strands, her eyes wide with a mixture of apology and exhaustion, and something inside Colt broke free. He rose to his feet, strode to her, and before she could retreat he took her trembling hands in his voice low and rough as gravel as he said, "Clara, I know what you think you've kept hidden, but I heard you that night by this very fire. I heard your heart, and it stopped mine cold, for I never thought a man like me could be loved so purely." And Clara, her face flushing scarlet, tried to pull away, but he held her gently, firmly, and whispered, "Don't run, not from me. Not when the truth is I've been falling for you all along." And the words seemed to shatter every wall she had built, tears filling her eyes as she confessed, "I'm just a maid, sir. I have nothing to give you." But Colt shook his head with a fierce tenderness, replying, "You've given me more than any wealth ever. You've given me a reason to feel alive again." And in that moment, as the storm roared outside, Colt drew her into his arms, not with the hunger of a man claiming possession, but with the reverence of a soul, holding its salvation. And when their lips finally met, it was not the kiss of a master and a servant, but of two hearts that had found home. And though the world outside might never understand, within the walls of that ranch house love had carved its sanctuary. And in the days that followed, Clara no longer walked the halls with downcast eyes, but with a quiet radiance. For Colt treated her not as a maid, but as his equal, his partner, his beloved, and the ranch hands, who once whispered of their wealthy boss, soon began to smile, knowingly at the sight of the shy girl and the rich cowboy side by side, their love undeniable, their bond unbreakable. And if you, dear listener, believe that true love belongs only to fairy tales, remember Colt and Clara, for they prove that sometimes the richest treasure is not land or cattle or gold, but the heart of someone who loves you when you least expect it. So if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because many more tales of love, faith, and destiny are waiting just for you.